Hello everyone, I am S. Vidya Rani, working as Assistant Professor of Physics at MVS Government Degree College, Autonomous, Mahbubnagar. In today's class, we will be discussing about elastic and inelastic one-dimensional collision and elastic two-dimensional collision in detail and their derivations. So, as we all already discussed what is elastic collision and what is inelastic collision, and in today's class we will see how they behave if they undergo one-dimensional collision and how the elastic two-dimensional collision takes place. So we will see in detail. First, let us know what is one-dimensional collision. So one-dimensional collision is nothing but sudden interaction of masses such that in collision both the initial and final velocities of the masses lie in one line. That means whatever the collision is happening between two bodies or two masses, even after the collision also, all the velocities, both the initial as well as final velocities of both the bodies lie on the same line. That means all the variables of motion are contained in a single dimension. Let us say if you consider two masses lying on x-axis, let us say. So both are approaching, let us say, and after the collision also both are moving in the same direction of x-axis only. That means both the masses whose velocities, let us say, initially are u1 and u2, and after the collision let their velocities have changed to v1 and v2. So all the velocities of all the bodies, in this case u1, u2, v1 and v2, all if they lie on the same x axis only or x plane only, then we call such collisions as one dimensional collision. See, that means let us say a body is here, let us say one more body is here. So this is, let us say, x axis. Okay, so both are colliding. So after collision, let's suppose the velocity of this body is u1, the velocity of this second body is u2. So after collision, let us say, so their velocities have changed to v1 and v2 respectively. Then even after the collision also, these two both masses are moving in this in the x-axis direction only. That means before and after the collision, all the velocities of all the bodies which are undergoing collision, if they lie on the same line, then we say that it's a one-dimensional collision. Hope you understood. Now let us see what is elastic one-dimensional collision. As I have already told that in collisions they will be perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic and semi-elastic. But in today's case we will see how the elastic one-dimensional collision takes place. As we all know, in case of elastic collision, we know that, so in case of elastic collision, law of conservation of kinetic energy as well as law of conservation of linear momentum holds good. So as we already discussed this in elastic collisions, that the internal kinetic energy is conserved, so is the momentum. So elastic collisions can be only achieved with particles like microscopic particles like electrons, protons or neutrons. In that case, let their according to law of conservation of angular momentum, this is the velocity, this is the linear momentum of the first particle. Let us say this is the first particle, we having a mass m1 and velocity u1. So this will be the linear momentum of the first particle before collision. So before collision, let's say the mass of the second body is m2, so which is moving with a velocity, let us say u2. So now the linear momentum of the second body will before collision will be m2 u2. So in the same way, the third, after collision, the first body mass is m1 and now the velocity has changed to v1. So now its linear momentum will be m1 v1. In the same way, for the second body after collision, let its velocity has changed to v2. So hence its linear momentum will be m2 v2. As we all know, according to law of conservation of linear momentum, so total momentum before collision should be equal to total momentum after collision. So total momentum before collision means momentums, individual momentums of both the bodies before collision. So hence we are adding up both the linear momenta of both the bodies, that is m1 u1 plus m2 u2. So that should be equal to linear momentum after collision of both the bodies. That is linear momentum of the first body after collision, linear momentum of the second body after collision. So if we add both the individual momentas, we get total momentum after collision. So according to elastic collision, so this should get conserved, that is total momentum before collision should be equal to total momentum after collision. So as we all know that even in case of elastic collision, even the kinetic energy also is conserved. Hence, according to the definition, that means we know that according to the definition, half m1 u1 square plus half m2 u2 square is equal to half m1 v1 square plus half m2 v2 square. That means let's suppose the kinetic energy of the first particle before collision is half m1 u1 square. In the same way, the second body before collision is having a kinetic energy of half m2 u2 square. So in the same way, after collision, let its velocity has changed to v1. We have discussed it earlier. So hence its kinetic energy will be half m1 v1 square. In the same way, the second body kinetic energy after collision will be half m2 v2 square. Here what we have done is we have striken off half on all the sides. So I will show you the actual. So this will be the equation, half here, half here, in the same way half here, in the same way half here. So these are the kinetic energies of individual masses before collisions and after collision. So but so to remove the confusion, I am erasing this. So here we have a half on all the sides. So we are removing half on all the sides. So we get what this equation, that is m1 u1 square plus m2 u2 square is equal to m1 v1 square plus m2 v2 square. So after rearranging these terms, so all the masses, all the bodies with mass m1 are taken to one side and all the bodies of masses m2 are taken to the other side. So after rearranging, so the equation changes to in this way. If you observe here, so we have taken m1 common here. So m1 if we take common in both the equations, so it will be m1 of u1 square minus v1 square is equal to, here in both RHS side we can take out m2 common. So if we take m2 common, it is v2 square minus u2 square. So this will be the equation. So now what we have done, so this equation I have written here. Now if we elaborate this equation according to a square minus b square, so that is equal to a plus b into a minus b. So when we expand this according to that formula, So we get u1 m1 into u1 plus v1 into u1 minus v1 is equal to m2 into v2 plus u2 into v2 minus u2. So next, if we move on further, so using the conservation of momentum equation, we got m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. So even that equation, if we regroup with the same masses, then we get m1 of u1 minus v1 is equal to m2 of v2 minus u2. So we have two equations pertaining to the conservation of momentum as well as conservation of kinetic energy. So hence what we are doing is that we are dividing the equation of kinetic energy with the equation of conservation of momentum. So hence we get this equation m1 into u1 plus v1 into u1 minus v1 by m1 into u1 minus v1 is equal to, so LHS terms we are taking to one side, all the RHS terms we are taking to the other side. So RHS side we will get m2 into v2 plus u2 into v2 minus u2 by m2 into v2 minus u2. So here we got this equation. We are dividing this equation by this equation. So hence we get, so after cancellation we get u1 plus v1 is equal to v2 plus u2. So after cancellation of the like terms, we get u1 plus v1 is equal to v2 plus u2. So from this equation, we can find out the velocity of the first body after collision, that is v1 is equal to v2 plus u2 minus u1. So what is the use of finding out the velocity of the first body after collision is that, so when we use this value of v1 in equation of conservation of momentum, we get an equation for finding the velocity of second body after collision, that is v2. So we have substituted this value, v1 value, in the previous value, that is this. So if you substitute the value of v1 in this equation, so what we get is that we got this equation as v2 is equal to 2m1 u1 by m1 plus m2 plus u2 into m2 minus m1 by m1 plus m2, whereas u1, u2s are the initial velocities of both the bodies before collision, whereas v2 is the final velocity of the second body after collision. m1 and m2s are the masses of both the bodies which are participating in a collision. So now we have got the value of v2 from the above equation. So after getting the value of v2 in this equation, if you substitute here in this place, in this equation, we get the value of v1. So that v1 value we got it as 2m2 u2 plus u2 into m2 minus m1 plus u1 into m1 minus m2 by m1 plus m2. This is the equation that we got after substituting the value of a v2 in the said equation. So now let us consider few special cases while finding out the one-dimensional elastic collision. So let us see what are the special cases. First case is that, let us suppose when masses of both the bodies are equal, that means m1 is equal to m2. So when masses of both the bodies are equal, then what happens? So when after collision, these masses exchange their velocities. When m1 is m2, what happens? So whatever the masses are moving with their velocities gets exchanged. That means the velocity of the first body before collision is exchanged by the second body after collision, or else whatever the velocity of the second body is there before collision, that gets exchanged with the velocity of the first body after collision. So if you observe here, so that means v1 is equal to u2. That means velocity of the first body has gained the velocity of the second body before collision. In the same way, the velocity of the second body after collision is equal to velocity of the first body before collision. So that means in collision between objects of same masses, if let us say if the second mass is at rest, that means u2 is equal to 0 and the first mass is colliding with the second mass, then what happens? V1 becomes 0 and V2 becomes u1. That means, so their speeds get exchanged. Whatever the second mass which is at rest, so initially after collision, the first mass comes to rest, whereas the second mass moves with the velocity of the first body. So to explain this, I have shown some visual here. Limiting cases of elastic collision. So before initially what is happening? So both masses are equal, hence I have shown with m. So here if you observe, only the first body is moving towards the second body, whereas the second body is at rest at present. So when they collide, after collision, what happens? The first body which is moving earlier, so will come to rest. It has exchanged its velocity with the second body because of equal masses. Hence, the first body now has come to rest, that is, it exchanged its velocity with the second body before collision. Hence, it has come to rest. But whereas the second body, if you observe, so it starts moving with the velocity of the first body before collision. Hence, now the second body is moving with the velocity of v0. That means when m1 is equal to m2 is equal to m. So this equation will be velocity of the first body after collision will be v1 is equal to m1 minus m2 by m1 plus m2 into v0. The same way velocity of the second body after collision will be 2 into m1 into m1 plus m2 into v0. So if you substitute the value of m1 is equal to m2 is equal to m, so this value will become 0 because m1 is m, m2 is also m. So this value becomes 0. But whereas if you observe this, 2 into m1 that is equal to, so if you observe here, 2 into m1 that becomes 2m by m1 plus m2, that means m plus m. So that becomes 2m by again 2m. So 2m gets cancelled. So we got the value as 1. So 1 into v0 is v0. So hence the velocity of the second body after collision will be moving with the velocity of the first body before collision. So this is how we will show the limiting case when both the masses are equal and taking the case that second body is at rest. So now we will move on to the next case. So what I have discussed, that only I have written here. So when two equal masses of body, which initially the second body is at rest, so after the collision what happens? The first mass comes to rest because it takes the velocity of the second body before collision. So and the second body moves with the speed equal to the first mass velocity. So therefore in such case v1 becomes 0, first body has come to rest, and second body after collision is moving with the velocity of the first body. So another case is that, let us suppose if m1 is less than m2, m1 is very much less than m2, then the velocity of the first body is equal to minus u1 and the velocity of the second body comes to rest. That means if it in case, let us suppose m1 is very much less than m2, that means if the first body's mass is very less when compared to the second body, and initially the second body is at rest, let us suppose. Then after the lighter particle bombards or the collides with the heaviest particle, then it retards back with the same velocity that it has travelled before collision, but in the opposite direction. That means it retraces its path back to its original way. So But the second body, if you initially it was at rest, now even after collision, because it's such a high weight body, so its moment of its inertia will be more. Hence, it will not move even after the lighter particle collides with it. Hence, its velocity still remains zero. That means the lighter body, after bombarding, will come back with its own velocity, while the heavier mass will remain static. Next case, if you see I will show here. This is this is a small body, and this is a very high body, heavy body. So this is M1, which is very less when compared to M2. So this is at rest, that means U2 is equal to 0. Second mass is at rest. So this is coming towards it. After colliding, this M1 will retard with the same velocity with which it's, let us suppose initially it is traveling with the velocity of U1. So now after colliding with this heavier mass, it retraces its path back with the same velocity but in the opposite direction. To show the opposite direction, we show it with a minus u1. So velocity of the first body after collision, that is v1, will be equal to minus u1. As the second body is initially at rest before collision also, because it's very heavy, even after the collision also nothing changes, so it will not move, it will remain static. Hence v2 of the second body is 0. So this is how we will show the limit case in which wherein mass of lesser mass body is bombarding with a heavier mass body. And next case we will see, in third case, when let us suppose the first mass is having a heavy mass when compared to the second mass. So that means opposite of the previous one. So I am taking a big heavier mass and a smaller mass. Let us suppose the masses of this is m1 and this is m2. Initially the velocity of this is u1 before collision. The velocity of this is u2 before collision. Let us suppose its initial velocity of the second body is 0 only. So now what happens? Heavier particle is approaching a lighter particle. Then what happens? After collision, the heavier particle, so its velocity doesn't change. That means whatever the velocity it is moving, initially it was moving with the velocity of u1. So after the collision also, that body continues to move in the same direction with the velocity which it got previously. That means it moves with the same velocity before collision. So that's why v1 is equal to u1. Whereas the lighter mass, so after a heavy mass hits it, initially which is at rest, so after hitting, so this lighter particle whose velocity changes to v2 after collision will move with a twice the velocity of the first particle, that is 2u1. Twice means 2, so and twice the velocity of the first particle. First particle velocity before collision is u1, so it will move with a velocity of twice faster than the first particle. So then when a heavy particle collides with a much lighter particle at rest, so the velocity of the heavy particle remains practically unchanged. So now we will see the limiting case of the second one also. So before showing the limiting case, so but the lighter particle moves with double the velocity of the heavier particle. That's why I have shown here. See, if m1 is greater than m2, so velocity of the first particle after collision will be u1, and the velocity of the lighter particle after colliding with a heavier mass which is in motion, so will gain velocity as 2 times the velocity of the first particle, that is 2u1. So limiting case we will see for both the cases. Second condition is we have taken mass m1 lesser than m2. So I have taken m1 mass lesser than the mass m2. So here is the case. So again the second mass is at rest. So v is equal to 0. The first mass velocity, let us say it is moving with the velocity of v naught. So after colliding, what happens? So lighter particle is colliding with a much heavier body. So immediately what happens? So when a lighter mass collides with a heavier particle which is at rest, so after colliding, so it retraces its path with the same velocity. So after colliding, if you observe here, so this first body is moving with a velocity of v naught only. Initially it has v naught velocity. So now also after collision also it is moving with a velocity of v naught. But it is retracing its path. That means it is returning back. After collision, it is retracing its path. So that means the direction has changed. So initially it was moving towards the heavier body. Now it retraced its path and it's moving away from the heavier body. So hence for that we have shown with a negative sign, that is minus v naught. So in case of heavier mass, if you observe, initially the heavier mass was 0, which is its velocity was 0 because it is at rest. Even after the collision takes place, if you observe, the second mass almost remains at rest only. So to show this, so v1 final velocity of the first body after is m1 minus m2 by m1 plus m2 into v naught. So as m1 is very much less than m2, so this value becomes minus, because m1 minus m2 gives a negative value. Hence we get negative v naught value here. So that's why we got negative v naught value for the first body after collision. If you observe the second body after collision, so as it is 2m1 by m1 plus m2, so 2m1 is nothing but m1 is very less, so we can neglect. So if you observe here, so this will become almost 0. So that means it remains unchanged. That means it will be at rest only even after the collision. So third limiting case, we have seen m1 is greater than m2. That means heavier particle is moving towards a lighter particle which is at rest. Hence we have shown this body, second body at rest, as velocity is equal to 0. So the heavier particle is moving towards the lighter mass, that is with a velocity of v naught. So m1 is very much high when compared to m2. So now in this case, after the collision takes place, what happens? Let us see. So after a heavy mass collides with a lighter mass initially which is at rest, after the collision, the heavier mass will continue with the same velocity only, in the same direction. Hence, so velocity of the first mass after collision is almost equal to v naught only, and it is continuing its path. Whereas if you observe the second body, that means lighter mass which was at rest, so after it has been collided with the heavier mass, it is moving with a velocity of twice the velocity of the first body and in the same direction of the first body. So hence I have shown almost twice. So velocity of the second body after collision is nearly equal to 2 times the initial velocity of the first particle, that is 2v naught. So if you observe here we have shown m1 is very much greater than m2. So m1 is very much greater than m2 means this is a positive value. Hence m2 is very negligible. So we can neglect m2. So this will be a positive v naught value. So it will be nearly equal to v naught. So and the second velocity of the second body after collision, if you observe, again we can neglect the mass of the second body which is lighter one. So if you observe here, 2m1 2m1 by m1, m1 gets cancelled. So we get 2 mu naught, or else we got 2 v naught. That means it's nearly equal to 2 v naught. That is velocity of the first particle is v naught. So it will be 2 times the velocity of the first body which was moving towards the second body initially, which is at rest. To show this visually, and let us plug and play by changing the values by taking the cases of m1 is equal to m2 and u2 is equal to 0, first condition. Second condition, m1 is less than m2 and still the second body u2 is equal to 0. And third condition, we will see m1 is greater than m2 and still the condition, the second body is at rest, that means u2 is equal to 0. And we will find out their final velocities, whether they are satisfying the above conditions which we have seen. So now we will see. Here I have shown you two masses 1 and 2 with red and green balls. Let us say 2 balls. We want velocity vectors, hence we are showing velocity vectors. So here we can change the masses of both the bodies or balls. So if you click on more data, so we can see at what position are they and with what velocity they are moving. We can change the velocities and we can change the masses, and we can simulate it and see whether after the collision whether we are getting the values that we ought to get. Okay, so first case is our first case is equal masses. Suppose let us take the first mass as 2, second body's mass is also 2, equal masses, and initially the second body is at rest, hence velocity I have taken it as 0. Second body velocity I have taken it as 0. Let us increase the velocity of the first mass. Let us suppose the first body is moving with a velocity of 4 meters per second to a ball, and it is going to collide with the second body initially which is at rest. Now we will play and see what happens. So again I will show. So one more time you try to observe. So what you might have observed. So if you observe here, initially we have taken the first body velocity as 4 and second body is at rest, hence 0. But because both are having equal masses and the second body is at rest, hence after the collision, what I have told, please remind once that after when two equal masses of bodies collide wherein the second body is initially at rest, then after the collision both the bodies exchange their velocities. So hence the first body which was initially moving with 4 meters per second has exchanged its velocity with the second body. So that means, so now second body is moving with 4 meters per second. And the second body which was initially at rest, so now it has exchanged its value with the first body. So now the first body velocity has become, after the collision it has become 0. That means now the first body has come to rest, but whereas the second body started moving with a velocity of 4 meters per second, which was the velocity of the first body before collision. Hence if you might have observed here, so if you observe here, the first body has come to rest immediately after it collided with the second body which was at rest. I will show you once. See, slowly I have shown you. So now the first body has come to rest, but whereas the second body which was initially at rest started moving with a velocity of 4 meters per second. Now we will see the second condition. Second condition is that, so mass of the first body should be very much less, let us suppose this one, and mass of the second body is too heavy, so we have to consider too heavy mass. So mass of the first ball we have taken as 0.1 kg, that means 1 gram, let us say. Next, the mass of the second body is 3 kg. So if you click on more data again, so velocity of the first body we will consider it as suppose 5, and the second body condition is at rest only, so we have considered the second body at rest only. So this is the lighter particle, m1 is very much less than m2. So now this body is moving with the velocity of 5 meters per second according to our parameters, and the second body is at rest. Now we will see the visual. You might have observed pause. So initially let us suppose it has taken the velocity of 1 and this is velocity of 0. So restart, I am showing you. So the lighter particle is moving it with a velocity of 1 meter per second, whereas the second particle is initially at rest, heavier mass. So now we will see what happens. You might have observed there is a very slight movement, or we can say there is no movement at all. If the mass is too heavy, then this slightest movement also will not happen after the collision. So that's why in equations I have shown that it is almost equal to 0. You might have observed, so mass of the first body is very much less compared to the second body. So initially the first body was moving with 1 meter per second, whereas the second body was at rest. After colliding, the first particle is colliding with the second mass, so it retraced its path with almost with the same velocity. You might, if you have seen here, the value is minus 0.9, so it's almost 1, minus 1. Minus represent the retracing path, that means to the opposite of the initial direction, it has moved to the opposite direction. So hence minus, so it is almost 1 only. If you have observed here, the second body's velocity initially it was 0 meters, the initial at rest. Now also if you observe it is 0.06, that means a very slightest movement. So if the mass gets increased more and more, then this movement will also be not there. So it will be almost equal to 0 only. That means after the collision also the second body remains unchanged. That means it will remain in its rest position only. I will show you one more time. So slowly it is bombarding. Let us decrease the velocity of the body, first body, that is 0.5 meters per second. Okay, we will now play. So after bombarding, you observe the values here. So 0.5 means after bombarding it is retracing its path with almost the same velocity, the first body. And if you might have observed the second body, very slightest movement, that is 0.03, that means it's almost in rest position only. So we can increase the mass to a higher value. Let us suppose 8 kgs we have shown. Restart. We will restart the simulation. Now the first same case, but increase the mass of the second body. Now we will show the simulation. After bombarding, you might have observed now this second body, heavier body, has not moved, so it remained in rest position only. The first body retraced its path with the same velocity, almost same velocity. So this is how we can show the second limiting case. So for the third case, we can also show that in the third case we have to increase the mass of the first body, let us suppose, and mass of the second body is, let us suppose, 1 kg only. Initially this heavier body is moving with a velocity of 4 meters per second, let us say, and the second body is still at rest only. That means the heavier body is moving towards the lighter body which is at rest. So this heavier body has a mass of 20 kg, whereas the lighter body has a mass of 1 kg. So as we all know, so when a heavier body hits a lighter body which is at rest, so the heavier body continues to move with the same velocity even after the collision, but whereas the second body moves with twice the velocity of the first body. So we have to check the velocities here after collision takes place. Now initially, so 20 means the first mass is moving with a velocity of 4. The second body is at rest, so 0. So after collision, our expectation is that the first body should continue with the same velocity, that is 4 only. But whereas the second body should move with the twice the velocity of the first body, that is 2 into 4 means almost 8 meters per second. The second body should move after the collision. Now let us see. So if you observe here the velocities, so the first body initially it was moving with 4 meters per second. Even after the collision it is almost moving with the same velocity, that is 3.6, nearly equal to 4. In case of the second body, so initially which was at rest, it should gain or it should move with twice the velocity of the first body. So it has moved with almost twice that. Twice is that 4 we have the velocity of the first body. So twice the velocity means we should get 8 meters per second. So if you observe here, we have got the velocity as 7.62. So it is nearing to 8. So if we increase the masses, so we will see by increasing one more condition. So let us see 80, and now the second one is having a mass 1. So now the initially it is moving with a velocity of 2 meters per second, and this is at rest 0. So we will restart this. So according to our equation, so the first body should move with same velocity, that is 2 meters per second only after collision, and the second body should gain twice the velocity, that means 2 into 2 we should get it as 4. We will restart and we will play again. So now we will see play. If you might have observed here, so this is moving with almost the same velocity, and if you have observed here, so this is moving with a velocity of 2. So this is how we can show the simulation and observe how the balls are behaving in elastic collision in use when they are both are having different masses and equal masses, and when the second body is at rest. So now we will see to inelastic one-dimensional collision. So as we all know, in inelastic collision, so conservation of kinetic energy will not hold. So in inelastic collision, one-dimensional collision, the colliding masses stick together and move in the same directions at same speeds. I have already told in the earlier classes that in an elastic collision, both the masses which are in collision, so they move in the same direction and with the same velocity as one entity. So the momentum is conserved, but kinetic energy is changed to different forms of energies. So for an inelastic collision, the equation for conservation of momentum is, so m1 u1 plus m2 u2 is equal to, I have told that there won't be any different velocities for both the masses, hence both will move with the same velocity as one entity. So hence I am taking only one velocity, final velocity as v. So that means m1 plus m2 into v. Since both the objects stick, we take final velocity after the collision as v. So now we will calculate v from this equation. So when we calculate v, so it should be equal to v1 is equal to m1 u1 plus m2 u2 by m1 plus m2. So whatever the kinetic energy lost during the phenomena shall be equal to, E is equal to, we know that, half m1 u1 square minus half m1 plus m2 v2 square. So after the phenomena, if you observe, so the energy lost is equal to half m1 u2 square. This was the uh, energy of the second particle before collision, and this is the kinetic energy of both the masses. So minus half m1 plus m2 into v2 square v square. So now expanding this, half m1 u1 square minus half m1 plus m2 into this v2, we got the value as m1 u1 by m1 plus m2 whole square. So from the above equation. So next, half m1 u1 square is minus. So if we simplify this, m1 plus m2 and m1 plus m2 gets cancelled. So remaining values will be m1 square u1 square by 2 into m1 plus m2. So now taking half m1 u1 square common in both the terms, so we get 1 minus m1 by m1 plus m2. So then this whole thing, if you observe, so m1 into m2 into u1 square by 2 into m1 plus m2. So if you further simplify this, m1 numerator will be m1 minus m2 minus m1. So m1 will get cancelled. So remaining term will be m2. So m1 into m2 by into u1 square by m1 plus m2. So this is always positive. Why? Because so m1 is equal to m2. If both the masses are equal, then this will be m1 is equal to m2. Then also it will be a positive value. If m1 is equal greater than m2, then also it will be a positive value. Then if m1 is less than m2 also, because then also the value will be a positive one. Now we will move on to two-dimensional collisions. For a general collision of two objects in two-dimensional space, the conservation of momentum principle implies that the total momentum of the system in each direction should be conserved. That means we have to consider both the directions. I have already told in one-dimensional all the velocities lie in the same line. But whereas in this case, two-dimensional collisions, all the velocities lie in a plane called xy plane. That means we have to consider the momentums in both the directions of x as well as y. Also, we have to consider the components in both the directions of x and y. Hence, in this case, we will get components, the horizontal component as cos theta and vertical component as sin theta. Velocity components in both the directions will be cos theta and sin theta, horizontally and vertically respectively. So for the total momentum of the system in each direction should be conserved means, if you observe here in x direction also we have taken the values of momentum, and also in y direction also we have taken the momentums. So initially m1 v1 in x direction, m2 v2 in x direction is equal to m1 v1 into final velocity in x direction, m2 v2 in final. So this is the initial velocities, these are the final velocities in x direction. Whereas if you observe this, these are the linear momentums of both the bodies in y direction. So hence I have shown with a y direction. So this is before the collision, if you observe. So m1 is approaching m2. So we have to consider the velocities along x direction as well as along y direction. Hence they have divided into this way. So after the collision they may move in this direction. Hence I have shown this with a figure. So the momentum should get conserved in all directions. That means total momentum before collision in x direction should be equal to total momentum after collision in x direction. In the same way, total momentum before collision in y direction should be equal to total momentum after collision in y direction. So to show this, I have taken the help of subscripts for identifying the object. That is this represents initial velocity of the first body in x direction, initial velocity of the second body in x direction. These are initial final velocity of the first body after collision in x direction. This is final velocity of the second body after collision in x direction. So this is where we use subscripts for identifying the object. So here I have shown the subscripts, and you might have observed here. So here also I have shown with the subscript. So all these are subscripts. So the velocity components, if the collision is elastic, use conservation of kinetic energy as a second equation. So if in two dimensional also there can be elastic collision or inelastic collision. For elastic collisions means we have to consider the conservation of kinetic energy also. So as a conservation of kinetic energy equation, we have to consider it as a second equation. So, but anyway, the simpler equation can only be used for one dimensional situations. So if you observe here, velocity of the first particle after collision is equal to velocity of the second particle after collision plus velocity of the second particle before collision. So this is the simplest form in one dimensional collision. Now glancing collision. So the after velocities, if you have observed, have x and y counts. Initially the ball is at rest, let us say, suppose, but after velocities, if you observe, so both the balls are moving, so we have to consider both the components in x and y direction. So momentum is conserved in the x direction and in the y direction. Now we have to apply the conservation of momentum separately to each direction. So we have considered the angular momentums in x direction and we have shown it as conserved, and in the same way we have taken the momentums in the y direction and we have shown them that the linear momentum is conserved in the y direction also. Now we will see elastic head-on collision in two dimension. I have already discussed what is head-on collision, that means direct impact. So direct impact means if both the masses which are in collision, so they both are moving along the line of compact before the collision and after the collision, then we call such collisions as head-on collision. So let M1 and M2 be the two mass particles in a laboratory frame of reference and M1 colliding with M2 which is initially at rest. So in same condition we are considering, let me consider that M2 is at rest, that is second body is at rest. Let the velocity of mass M1 before collision be U1 and after the collision it moves with the velocity of V1 and is deflected by the angle θ1 with its incident direction, and M2 after the collision moves with the velocity V2 and is deflected by an angle T2 with its incident direction. To show you visually, this is the figure. So I have taken two masses. Initially one is moving with the velocity of U1. The second one is at rest. So when this body collides with the particle at this position, so what happens? The first body is tracing this path V1 and it is making an angle θ1 with its initial line of impact called this. So now after the collision, second body is moving with a velocity V2 and it is making an angle T2 with the line of impact, that is X. So this is a figure. So from law of conservation of linear momentum, we have to consider the conservation of linear momentum along x-axis and along y-axis separately, and we have to show them that they are conserved. So for along x-axis if you observe, so m1 u1 is equal to, after the collision it is moving m1 v1 cos θ1, because the m1 u2 becomes 0 because u2 is equal to 0, hence m1 u1 is equal to m1 v1 cos θ1 plus m2 v2 cos θ2. m1 v1 cos θ1 is equal to m1 v2 cos θ2. Because we are considering the x-axis, hence we have to show them as cos values. Now for components along y-axis, again if you observe, so there is no movement along y-axis, the first body and the second body, so both values become 0, because m1 u1 along y component there is no movement, so 0, m2 u2 along y component there is no movement, so hence 0. But whereas after collision, so along y they are moving with a velocity of v1 v2, so I am making an angle of θ1, so vertical component is sin θ1, so both are moving away from each other in opposite directions, hence we have to show with a minus sign in between. So 0 is equal to m1 v1 sin θ1 minus m2 v2 sin θ2. And from law of conservation of energy, we have to, even as it is an elastic collision, we have to also conserve energy, kinetic energy. So that means half m1 u1 square is equal to half m1 v1 square plus half m2 v2 square. So these are the three equations that we got. Analyzing above three equations, we come to know that we have to find the values of v1, v2 as well as theta 1, theta 2 with the help of above three equations, which is not possible. So we cannot predict the variable as there are four of them. We have to find out the four values using these three equations, which is highly impossible. So however, if we measure any one variable, then other variable can be uniquely determined from the above equation. So to obtain the values of v1, v2 and theta 2, particularly we consider a case wherein both the masses are equal, that is m1 is equal to m2. So when we apply this case, so this from equation 1, this changes into u1 is equal to v1 cos theta 1 plus v2 cos theta 2. So this I have written here, and from equation 2, applying this condition, we got so v1 sin theta 1 minus v2 sin theta 2. So that I have shown here, v1 sin theta 1 is equal to v2 sin theta 2. Consider this as equation 5. Now if you observe this equation, fourth equation, so this can be rearranged as u1 minus v1 cos theta 1 is equal to v2 cos theta 2. So squaring on both sides, we get this equation, equation number 7. So next, if we square the fifth equation also, this equation, so we get v1 square sin square theta 1 is equal to v2 square sin square theta 2. So when we add both the equations which are squares, so adding equation 6 and 7, so one side we get v2 square sin square theta 2 plus cos square theta 2, which is equal to 1, hence we got v2 square on the right hand side. And the left hand side we should add all the terms, so u1 square plus v1 square, because again if we take cos square theta sin square theta 1 common, we get v1 square minus 2u1 v1 cos theta 1. So again from equation 3 we can find out what is equation 3, this. So from this equation we can find out u1 square is equal to v1 square plus v2 square. So this we got here, u1 square is equal to v1 square plus v2 square. Again rearranging, we got u1 square minus v1 square is equal to v2 square. Consider this as equation 9. Subtracting equation 9 from equation 8. So then v2 square gets eliminated. So we got the terms 2v1 square minus 2u1 v1 cos theta 1 is equal to 0. Taking common 2v1, we get v1 minus u1 cos theta 1 is equal to 0. So 2v1 becomes 0, hence v1 minus u1 cos theta 1 is equal to 0. That means v1 is equal to u1 cos theta 1. So consider this as equation 1. So when we consider the condition m1 is equal to m2, we can calculate v1. So that v1 is equal to u1 into cos theta 1. So now from equation 3 we got v2 square is equal to u1 square minus v1 square. Again substituting the value of v1 that we got from this equation. So v2 square is equal to u1 square minus u1 square cos square theta 1. Taking u1 square common on the RHS side, so we get v2 square is equal to u1 square into 1 minus cos square theta 1. So 1 minus cos square theta 1 is equal to sin square theta 1. So hence v2 square is equal to u1 square sin square theta 1. So taking square root on both the sides, so we get v2 is equal to u2 sin theta 1. That means if you observe, so whatever the velocity we got, there is slight mistake here, this should be u1 sin theta 1. So that means whatever the value we got v2, that is equal to u1 sin theta 1. Thus v2 also can be calculated. So if you observe here, v1 is equal to u1 cos theta 1, v2 is equal to u1 sin theta 1. From both the equations, it is clear that v1 and v2 are perpendicular components of u1, because that is u1 cos theta 1 and this is u2 sin theta 1. So u1 sin theta 1. Hence, so both are perpendicular components of velocity u1. Hence, in this case, when both are perpendicular means the angle between both the balls after collision are moving with an angle of 90 degrees with one another. That is theta 1 plus theta 2 is equal to 90 degrees from each other. That means in a perfectly elastic collision between particles of equal masses, When one particle is initially at rest, the two particles always move off at right angles to each other after collision. That means the angle, if you might have observed, if you observe here, so the angle made by these two balls after collision, when considering the condition that both the masses are equal and initially the second mass at rest, so the angle made by these two balls, they move with a 90 degrees angle. That means they both move on perpendicular to one another. So this is how we can show that perfectly elastic collision in a two-dimensional frame. So from equation 5, we can also find out the angle, that is sin theta 2 is equal to V1 by V2 into sin theta 1. So we can also calculate the value of theta 2 from the fifth equation. So this is how in today's class we came to know what is a one-dimensional elastic collision, one-dimensional inelastic collision and two-dimensional elastic collision, considering the cases when both the bodies are moving with same, when both the masses are equal, that is m1 is equal to m2. Second case is when m1 is less than m2, and the third case is m1 is greater than m2, initially keeping the second body at rest. In the same way, in two-dimensional elastic collision also, we have considered this, both the masses are equal and keeping the second body at rest initially. After the collision, both move perpendicular to one another. So this is how we have learned about these topics in this class. So thank you for your patience listening. Signing off for today's session. Thank you.